For years, I've been saying that I want to become fluent in Spanish. Well, I'm finally doing it, and you can too. I'm gathering the best free tools that I can find: apps, podcasts, websites, online classes, conversation groups, and I'm piecing together a budget-friendly path to fluency. If you've ever wanted to learn a new language but you don't want to break the bank, then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Liz, and this is Hold My Readers, real talk about midlife and beyond. I'm so excited because today kicks off a brand new adventure for me in midlife, and that's to finally become fluent in Spanish. Now, obviously, I am a Latina woman, and a lot of people ask, how is it that a 57-year-old Puerto Rican woman doesn't speak Spanish? Well, that is a very good question. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and help you understand why. I was born in 1967, and during that time frame here in the US, it was very common for parents not to teach their children to speak Spanish as a first language. And there were a lot of reasons for that. First of all, there was an awful lot of societal pressure to assimilate the kids into the American way of life and to speak English. And so parents did that in order to protect their children. They wanted us to succeed in school, and they didn't want us to face discrimination. So that was a very common thing that happened in the 60s and 70s, and somewhat still today, but not quite as much, because I think we're seeing a resurgence of pride in culture, and honestly now speaking a second language is considered an asset and not a drawback. But back when I was growing up, that was not the case at all. As a matter of fact, some US schools discouraged the speaking of Spanish, and some would even punish students when they did. So that was certainly not a thing that my parents wanted for me and for my sisters, and so we learned to speak English as a first language. So I've had some exposure to Spanish for sure, but it's not something that I ever learned to speak fluently or even to understand completely. My parents were doing what they thought was best for us. They thought that they were protecting us. And boy, what a regret that is. I really wish that I had Spanish. I miss that piece of my culture, and I have always regretted not being able to speak the language. So we're going to fix that now. According to Pew Research, 24% of Latinos in the United States don't speak Spanish today. I think that number was probably a whole lot higher before, but again, I think we are seeing a resurgence of pride in culture and the fact that speaking Spanish is considered an asset and a really great thing to have on a resume. So I think we're seeing more people teaching their children Spanish than we did when I was growing up, and I'm really grateful for that. One of the biggest regrets that I have was not passing the Spanish language on to my two daughters as they were growing up. I would have loved for them to be fluent, just as I want to be fluent myself, but I have the chance to do that for my grandson, who is now just a year old, but I would love to pass the Spanish language and that piece of his culture on to him. And so he's another big reason that I've decided to do this right now. Over the years in high school and in college, I definitely took the Spanish classes, Hola, me llamo Liz, and yo quiero Taco Bell. But, that is very much an exercise in memorization. And if you don't put those things into practice, they don't become something that sticks with you. And so I am familiar with some vocabulary, and I am familiar with some of the rules and the alphabet, and I can count and those basics. So I do have a little bit of a base to start, just as I think most people do. A lot of people took Spanish as an elective when they went to school. So I think some of those same basics that a lot of people have, I have as well, and I think that's going to be very helpful. I also have the benefit of having heard a lot of Spanish in my lifetime. I had relatives who didn't speak English, so I never understood anything they were saying, but certainly I've had exposure to it. And today, if someone is speaking to me in Spanish, if they speak very slowly, I can usually piece out a few words and figure out exactly what they're saying, though I have a very difficult time responding back to them. So that's what this project is about, and I'm super excited to have the time to do that. I've recently transitioned from full-time work to part-time work as I get closer to retirement, and so I'm so excited to have the time to place into something like this that has been something I wanted to do for a very long time. So I'm very excited about taking this journey. So like I said in the introduction, I'm going to be piecing together a whole bunch of different things, free and almost free resources to use on that path to fluency. So I plan to start with language transfer. I really like their platform and their way of teaching. It's very intriguing to me and doesn't start with basic vocabulary and hola me llamo and all of the things that we've already heard. It really takes a different approach about helping you to understand what you already know that you don't realize you know by some of the rules as it relates to vocabulary in Spanish and how the language is constructed. So I'm thinking that I'll probably do 3 to 5 language transfer lessons weekly. They're not very long. They're pretty easy to take in. So I think that's a very realistic goal, to do 3 to 5 of those, take them in, really understand them, and get a good base for the Spanish language. And then from there, I'll layer in 10 or 15 minutes a day of some of the other tools that I mentioned. One of those things are different apps. So you've heard of Duolingo, I'm sure. There are multiple others out there. I'll be researching those a little bit and maybe doing some trials to see which ones work best for me. And I'll definitely make some videos about those to let you know what's out there, and you can then take a look and see what works best for you. In addition to that, I'm going to find some language podcasts, because hearing the language, it's good for pronunciation, it's good for understanding, it's good for getting the cadence and being able to think in Spanish rather than thinking in English. Obviously, that would be a little tough right at the beginning to jump right into those, but I'm sure that those will be a piece that I layer in as I get through this process. Also, YouTube videos. There are some really terrific channels, and as I discover those and pick my favorites, I'll do videos and highlight those as well, because I think they're going to be a great tool as I'm learning to speak fluently and understand the language better. The other thing that I'll be layering in are conversation groups. I think this is probably the most important piece of the puzzle, because when you're trying to speak the language, I know for me anyway, this is what happens. Somebody says something to me, my brain hears the Spanish, translates it to English. I then think my answer in English, translate that to Spanish, and try to speak it to them. That's why I can't speak the language. I understand a lot of words, but I just can't piece it all together because my brain thinks in English, obviously. And that's very normal, but when you can make that switch to thinking in Spanish, it makes things a whole lot easier from what I understand. And that makes a whole lot of sense to me. And so I'm going to be using conversation groups so that I can practice that in real time and help my brain to make that switch from thinking in English to thinking in Spanish. That's going to be a big leap, and I hope it doesn't take too long, but that I think will probably be the biggest hurdle for me. And I'll probably also take in some books and printables and things that I can read, because being able to read Spanish will also help me to increase my vocabulary and gather a better understanding. That's an opportunity to really take your time when you're digging into something that you're reading, because you can study and you can go back and look up words and take your time really taking it in and understanding it. So those are the other tools that I'll be layering in addition to language transfer. So what are your thoughts? Have you learned another language already? And were there other tools that you use besides the types of tools that I've just mentioned here that were helpful to you? I'd love to know in your comments what your experiences were. This definitely won't be a polished journey, but it'll be real. And I think that's what we're all looking for anyway, right? So if I need to go back and repeat lessons because I'm not getting it, whatever the case may be, it's all good. However long this takes, I am not in a hurry. I'm not on a time clock. And so we'll be taking it slow and kind of going with the flow. Now, as I meander along this journey, I am definitely going to be making update videos to keep you updated. You can expect to see a weekly update video with me to show my progress. Sometimes I might even let you look in on a lesson as I'm taking one. I'll review some of the resources and tools that I'm finding and lead you to some podcasts and conversation groups that I find as well. So I hope that if you're going to come along for this journey, that those things will be helpful to you. So that's my plan. I'm super excited about it. I feel like I'm reclaiming a piece of my past. The Spanish language holds a lot of nostalgia for me and brings back a lot of memories of some of the people that I have loved the most in my life who are no longer with us. So this journey is a great journey for me because not only am I going to learn a new language, something I've wanted to do for a very long time, but I feel like I'm reconnecting with people in the past who are no longer with us. It's another way for me to keep a piece of them with me all the time. So if you've ever wanted to learn something new or to learn something to reconnect with a part of yourself that you thought was gone, this is your sign. Hit the subscribe button. Let's do this together.